All right, game time. So today I've got a tactical sci-fi futuristic sort of tactics RPG sort of thing, and it's called Satellite Rain, and it's on Steam for the PC. And Satellite Rain is sort of this top-down isometric tactics RPG where you play in this dystopian future, and in this dystopian future it's sort of a single corporation has taken over pretty much everything, and they sort of control everything under the same umbrella corporation. And this company called Dracogenics has mastered the technology of transferring consciousness. So basically, people can transfer their consciousness from body to body. So what they've been doing in this futuristic world is they're cloning bodies, they're cloning themselves, and then transferring their consciousness so they essentially live forever. Now this dystopian future is pretty bleak, but the world itself is very neon, very colorful, and you play a squadron of clones and you are trying to topple this corporation. So that's the setting. Is the gameplay any good? Well, let's jump into the game and I'll show you what it's all about. So what's the gameplay like? Well, it's at the start, it's pretty straightforward. It's a lot like XCOM, if you know what XCOM is like, where it's sort of cover-based shooting, where you can position your units. You get 4 guys, and you can position them behind walls and chest-high walls or full walls, and they can shoot from cover. And this is, it is a lot like XCOM, but the big difference is this is all real-time. In XCOM, it's sort of turn-based, and you can take your turns moving around. This is all real-time, so it's a bit more action-packed. It's a bit more stressful at times because you are sort of rushing through certain situations, and running away from enemies is definitely a way to get through it. But in general, when you first start out, you're going to have very basic weapons, you're going to have very basic armor, and not that many abilities. But as you go through the missions, there's a few interesting mechanics where you can raid certain locations and you get schematics for weapons and armor and new pieces of technology, which you can then send to your research lab to research and mass produce. Alternatively, if you don't want to spend your cash on researching how to mass produce a weapon, you could just take the weapon and use it immediately. But if your agent dies, you would lose that weapon or that gadget forever. So after that, there's the dying mechanic. Since we're talking about agents dying, the dying mechanic plays into that story about cloning I mentioned before. And what happens is they sort of added this story between respawning your agents. When your agents die, a fast-grown clone can be respawned and their consciousness transferred over. So this is something that's sort of interesting, and later on in the story you can actually get an ability to fast drop your clone. So an agent can die and you can pay quite a bit of money to respawn your agent and transfer him right back into the battlefield. So it's a really weird mechanic. And this cloning system also means you can kidnap people from the public who have higher stats. So let's say you want to boost one of your character's health. You can kidnap someone who has higher health, send them to the cloning lab, and then your character can be, the genetics from that person you kidnapped can be added onto your character so that you can improve the stats of your character. That sounds really weird saying it out loud, but that's how it works. And what's worse is the appearance of your character will then match the most recent clone. So the consciousness of your characters are transferred between these bodies. So it's actually a bit difficult to form an emotional bond with your characters, but your characters are sort of split to the soldier, the support, the hacker, and the infiltrator. And they do what they sound like they do. Now, the actual complex gameplay happens when you start to realize you don't have to move your 4 guys together. Your 4 agents are actually completely separate from each other. They can, of course, infiltrate and attack enemies together in a team, but you can actually send one to each corner of the map, and that's fine. And you can actually send them all to infiltrate different locations individually at the same time as well. And that sort of micromanagement really does add another layer of depth to this to the game, because you'll soon start to realize that certain missions require the heavy brute force of a soldier, but others would need the cloaking abilities of an infiltrator, and some would require a certain combination, and it's up to you to figure out what combination of agents to use. Now this adds a whole layer of strategy to the game, but a downside to the game game is that I've been playing for quite a while, and a lot of the missions are essentially the same. You sort of infiltrate a location, you have to reach the center point, and then you sort of steal something or you hack something. And a lot of the missions are essentially that. So if you don't like that format of mission, then you might not enjoy the game as a whole. But if you enjoy that format of mission, then you're gonna love it. So, is Satellite Reign for you? Well, if you liked XCOM, you're probably gonna like Satellite Reign. Or if you like any sort of futuristic sci-fi tactics RPG, then you're gonna like Satellite Reign, even though it's real-time strategy. Of course, I mentioned the downside, the gameplay can be a bit repetitive, but whether it is repetitive or not, whether it gets mundane or not, really is up to you. So I recommend you look at some footage on YouTube, check it out, the game, and if you like what you see, then you're gonna like the whole game. And just in general, the gameplay does become less repetitive and more exciting as you go on, as you research more abilities, as you get grenades, as you get laser weapons. These cool things really do break up the strategy and the tactics that you'll be using. So if you like all that, then you're going to love it. But if you check out the footage and you don't like what you see within the first 5 minutes or so, then maybe you'll want to avoid this title. But in general, I find Satellite Reign to be a fantastic title. It's really well made. And even in terms of bugs and glitches, I've only found a few minor ones here and there, which didn't really break the game in any major way. So overall, very, very good. So before I go, I want to thank our wonderful hosts here, Second Sunday and Damantara Jaya. They've got some drinks, coffees, food. I got to get myself some lunch after this, so it looks delicious.
Alas, we're the end of another episode, but before we go, big shout out to Lot 10 for hosting us at the Sports Hub. Lots of sporting stuff. I'm gonna go check out some football jerseys after this, I think. But in case you want more information, leave some comments, etc., head on over to the Astro Awani website. Everything will be there as well. Now, give me about a week to get the next batch of products ready, get all the news up to date as well for a brand new episode of Gadget Nation. My name's Adam Carruthers. Till next time, bye!